Hello and welcome to day 2 of our live stream coverage of RSA Conference 2024. I'm Jameson Cush with TechTarget Editorial and Eye on Tech, joined once again by Sabrina Paulin. Welcome.
Thanks, Jameson. Happy to be here.
And then highlights from day 1.
Day 1 was really exciting. We had a lot of great conversations with some cybersecurity experts. We talked cloud security architecture. We debunked some cybersecurity myths. That was a really interesting conversation, and everything is posted on our channel, Eye on Tech on YouTube, if anyone wants to catch up with what we talked yesterday. And other than that, just excited to see what day 2 holds.
Well, it is day 2, and this is really when the conference kicks in full. And of the 50,000 attendees, the halls of the Moscone are being roamed by 2 very dogged security reporters, TechTarget's own Alex Culafi and Arielle Waldman. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Jameson.
So prior to the show, I know we published a video, a quick video promoting our coverage here, and I think, Arielle, you mentioned that ransomware was going to be one of the big stories here.
Yeah, I definitely thought so. So far, it's only been one day, obviously, but so far I've been talking more about AI, but I did talk to a couple of people yesterday about ransomware transparency and whether that's improving with organizations or not, and it seems like it's not so much still, even though people are pushing for it.
And why is ransomware top of your mind going into this conference?
Oh, it's there were record numbers last year for number of victims, payment amounts, all sorts of things, and it's become so bad that they were people are pushing for a payment ban actually to try kind of quell the threat. So that's why I thought it would be top of the mind.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll see more ransomware. Ransomware news coming today as you have more interviews and again conferences kicking up.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. I think ransomware is in a super interesting place right now because, I mean, this is my 4th RSA, maybe your 3rd or something. And I feel like there's a different story to ransomware every year, and I think everything you're saying is totally valid. But to me, I think what's so interesting about ransomware is how it's changing shape year over year. Right. So what's been a big thing, I would say, in the last year or 2 is data extortion attacks. So basically, ransomware style attacks where victims are getting attacked, they're getting data stolen, there's the threat of extortion and data leakage in order to pay, but there's no malware, which is sort of what encrypts the victim's systems. So now a lot of threat actors are just stealing the data and just using that as a pressure point against victims. And what I think is so interesting about that is Verizon released their data breach investigation report for 2024 on May 1st. And the interesting data point was that ransomware, pure ransomware involving malware is going down slightly, but data extortion attacks are way up.
Yeah.
And if you combine those 2 numbers together, which I think you usually should because the threat actors are pretty much the same people, the attack format as a whole is slightly up year over year. So it's like, there was this thing in 2021 where people were like, oh, is ransomware down a little bit? And it's like, no. One, the invasion of Ukraine was sort of distracting a lot of threat actors for a while who were based in Russia oftentimes. But then 2, a lot of them are realizing like, hey, if we don't encrypt a hospital's network, the US government might not come after us as easily or other assorted governments.
Definitely.
And so just stealing the data, 1, gets them under the radar of law enforcement a little better, and 2, the data is really what's going to make a lot of organizations pay in the first point. So I think that's one of the interesting stories with ransomware this year.
It's not going down, it's just changing.
It's changing.
Yeah.
And that sort of aligns with the story I think you wrote yesterday about let me see, the concerning shift in hacktivism.
Oh yes, yeah, that's also changing. Recorded Future observed a shift in motivations. They observed it becoming more global scale of attacks. And they're seeing that they're kind of trying to hide other threats to organizations by muddling up all the threat intelligence that organizations are getting, so it's harder to sift through and find out what's actually a threat to your organization. So it could be ransomware, it could be business email compromise, any kind of threat. So Recorded Future really advised enterprises to sift through and verify the information that they're hearing from hacktivists.
Right. So you touched on this a second ago, Arielle, but AI, have to talk about AI.
Definitely.
Generative AI is touching every single corner of the world, really, but IT, especially in cybersecurity. Our experts, we're hearing they're talking AI washing, non-human identity management, data security posture, all related to the growth of AI.
Yes.
What are you guys seeing or expect to see about the AI conversation?
I did have
at
some
RSA?
good news yesterday about
Oh.
AI.
Fair.
I was talking with Tim Mackey from Synopsys, and he was saying that AI is helping developers more than attackers when it comes to securing software supply chain. So that's one positive, which you don't really hear about a lot. And then I spoke with Proofpoint yesterday as well, and he was saying, of course, there's all different flavors of AI, and it more so comes down to the right tool for what you need. And he also said everyone loves generative AI, but it's not always the most effective way to solve a problem, so it kind of comes down to that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would say generative AI is kind of in a nuts place right now because OpenAI, it's sort of ChatGPT, went wide to the public, I don't know, fall 2022, I believe.
Yeah.
And the next RSA, I mean, it took over the keynote, that was like leading the show, and it took over the entire show floor. And what I'm going to be interested to look at today, and then as we talk about later today, is how the conversation of AI has changed, not even on a technological level, but how people are selling it. Mm-hmm. You mentioned AI washing, sort of the idea of like companies saying something's AI, but it's not. I'm just more interested, like, is AI still seen as a gold mine, or are people going to get more chill with it, like, in how they sort of discuss it? But I don't know if, like, I've been on this beat for 5 years now, just like you joined up, I think, a month after me.
Close.
And I haven't seen any technology type, and I know machine learning's, like, been around for a while, but generative AI as a whole, to economically, business-wise, take over the hearts and minds of vendors at such a rapid pace. I haven't seen anything like it, I don't think.
Yeah, no, definitely. ChatGPT definitely propelled that. And yesterday during there was a Volt Typhoon session. They're a threat group that, they're really bad, persistent threat group. And yesterday there was a session with US agencies and Microsoft. And the Microsoft panelist said that she thinks AI will just accelerate the threat from actors like Volt Typhoon and other persistent threats, so that's not great either.
So Alex, you said earlier that you had been covering, I think it's your 4th RSA, and you've been on the beat 5 years. Has it been AI the whole time? Has that really been an undercurrent at these shows?
No. What I mean is, so AI had its big RSA appearance last year because of fall 2022. And it's just been what anyone's talked about. And I went to Black Hat right after, and that's what everyone was talking about there. And this is my 3rd major trade show, security conference since then, and I'm very interested to see what the discussion point is now. I mean, before that point, there was a lot more diversity in what people were talking about. I mean, you would hear cloud a lot, you would hear machine learning a lot, but the way it's AI, like, I haven't seen anything like that before early 2023.
I think almost all of my sessions have some sort of AI component to them that I'm going to.
But I would also say one of the interesting things is how SMBs especially are talking about AI. The thing I've heard anecdotally is that a lot of the things that people are worried about are AI-related threats. But the thing is, like, there's not really an AI threat landscape right now. Sandra Joyce at Google, she was on the media panel that they did yesterday to talk about the threat landscape. And to sort of somewhat quote her, she said that there's been no breach to date where AI has been the primary decision maker, the primary factor that led to an organization getting breached. But companies are still wondering, like, how is AI going to attack us? But it's really mostly just phishing emails right now. And meanwhile, you have all these companies that are worrying about AI, but misconfiguration is still a major issue. Identity attacks.
Yeah, patch management. Yeah, it seems like AI really isn't responsible for anything big. Attackers are more using it for planning and, yeah, like you said, phishing attacks and things like that, but nothing detrimental so far to an organization's security.
And it seems like it's leading to like a misprioritization among security vendors, which I had a story on TechTarget Security that I published yesterday where IBM and Amazon Web Services had a joint survey which was sort of talking about AI. And IBM, on a somewhat related note, said that while 82% of C-suite executives acknowledge that trustworthy and secure AI is essential, only 24% of them are accounting for security and building security into their Gen AI related projects. So I think there's potentially some hints of a misprioritization of security in both the folks selling AI and the people AI is being sold to.
Yeah, I could see that for sure.
So it's a sexy topic, but not necessarily the practical one.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
it's how you sell.
Yeah.
Well, how you sell, right?
Yeah.
You put that on there. So getting back to the practical, Alex, you also had another story regarding Cisco and their Splunk integrations.
So last September, Cisco announced that it was acquiring Splunk for $28 billion. Cisco, obviously huge networking vendor. Splunk, huge analytics vendor. $28 billion, huge acquisition. And people were wondering how the two were going to interact. And I think with this Monday announcement, I think we got a sign of how that was going to happen. So the first integration we're seeing is that Cisco's XDR capabilities are going to be integrated into Splunk's enterprise security platform, but they're still going to, so Tom Gillis over at Cisco, he told me that the way this acquisition was going to work was Splunk and Cisco technology would like go into each other's platforms, but they would still remain as two distinct entities for customers. And that's another trend at RSA that I think is going to be interesting to see. Acquisitions are in a very interesting place right now, and I'm interested to see not only what big acquisitions there are going forward, but how these weird acquisitions end up being realized in the security market. So I covered yesterday that Google was launching its Google Threat Intelligence offering, which is a threat intelligence offering which is combining like Google's massive array of sensors with Mandiant, which was an acquisition it made 2 or 3 years ago. And Mandiant, one of the biggest threat response vendors in the world.
Yeah.
And it was kind of interesting, like Google didn't have an enormous, it had a big security footprint, but it was still interesting to see like, oh, how are they going to utilize Mandiant? But Google Threat Intelligence and its other AI-related, threat intelligence-related offerings that they've announced in the last year or two is making it clear that I think Mandiant is a really good fit for Google because it has its threat researchers, which are best in class, combined with Google's just sheer amount of resources to like get threat intel, and on top of that you have Gemini, which is adding context to a lot of it. So I think that's going to be a really interesting product, and I think just in general, seeing how these weird acquisitions end up ultimately crossing over.
Yeah. Yesterday, Synopsys sold a unit that sells AI chips as well. They announced that yesterday. So yeah, acquisitions and AI, I feel like both kind of big topics this week.
It's funny, so we had some interviews yesterday, and when we were talking to the cybersecurity pros, when they were getting into the weeds and the details, that's when they lit up. And so I was wondering, the conversations you have, is it, with the users or the attendees here, is it that practical stuff that they want to talk about, or is it the AI, the sexy stuff?
Oh, well, when I interview people, like experts from vendors and things, they definitely want to talk about the more practical things, like data loss, vulnerability management, more things like that. We didn't talk about AI quite as much. They think, yeah, it's kind of been blown up a little bit out of proportion.
Is there a little bit of eye rolling going on with some of these higher
I feel like I always have to say, like, I know I have to ask about this, like AI, sorry if it's annoying, but like, definitely have to ask you about it. So.
Sure.
Yeah, I think you're seeing some eye rolling, but I think that's more at the user attendee level when you have those
Right.
conversations. I think that's when you see a bit more of the discerning customer and the eye rolling at like AI, whatever. Like AI can't even do that much right now anyways. That's sort of like a lot of the discourse you're seeing at like the attendee level.
Yeah.
I mean, but the interviews we're having, it's a lot of, I talked to John Hultquist at Mandiant, which is part of Google Cloud, yesterday, and he was telling me that like the way Google's AI stuff is working, they're sort of focusing on the 3 or 4 things that generative AI can do really well right now,
Yeah.
which is adding context to the huge amount of threat data that's coming down from all of these
Yes.
sensors, and not focusing as much on like the more gimmicky stuff.
I heard that as well. They said AI is going to enable attackers to kind of be able to exfiltrate and search through data so much quicker. So that's been a big concern that people have been talking about here. Yeah.
But I feel like that's going to be like an RSA 2026 conversation rather than
Keep going.
right now, where it's just like,
Yeah.
it's still AI is a buzzword and AI watching.
Speculation, really.
Yes.
Yep.
All right, well, for those that don't know that might be watching our live stream, it is just almost 9 a.m. on the West Coast. It's the start of the day, and you guys have the whole day ahead of you. What are you looking forward to seeing today? What do you expect? What's on the docket for you guys?
Oh, sure. Right after this, I'm going to the global threat overview, which should be interesting to find out kind of what we should be looking out for there.
Sounds ominous.
Yeah,
The global
hopefully
threat
not.
overview.
AI is also involved in that session as well, so I'll let you guys know later
If
what
there's
I
anything
learn
pressing, please
about.
let us know,
Yeah,
yes.
definitely.
Yeah.
I'll make sure. And then I have a bunch talking to more people today. So yeah, just kind of seeing what they have to say.
Yeah, Alex, what do you hope to see today?
So this is my big interview day, so I'm talking to a lot of threat researchers from places like Malwarebytes, Unit 42 over at Palo Alto Networks. I'm having a lot of conversations today. But what I'm excited to do is walk on the show floor.
Yeah.
Because when you walk on the show floor, you get a really good like 10 or 20 minute look at what people are selling right now, how people are talking about what they're selling, how they're positioning AI. Is AI front and center? Is it a bullet point? What keywords are you seeing come up? So that's always when I walk on the show floor at RSA and Black Hat and those sorts of places. It's a good overview of like what are the people selling products thinking about right now.
Which booths are the most full?
And then I'm also excited because at 5 tonight, I have a press meeting with Microsoft where I'm going to learn more about some of its AI offerings, but also its Secure Future initiative, which is Microsoft's commitment to security and prioritize security over its product concerns, which has been like a controversial topic for a couple of years now.
Yes.
And it seems like right now Microsoft is in a mode after having, I don't know, a breach a year basically for the last few years of saying, no, we are going to really commit to security and here's how we're going to do it. So I'm very interested to see how they message that and just what the people at Microsoft have to say when I talk to them.
Definitely.
And you're joining us later this afternoon to, I guess, proverbially dump your reporter's notebook. Right? Is that it? And then Microsoft's after that. I think it was at 4.
Yeah, we'll talk about it tomorrow.
Perfect. Excellent. So where can our viewers find your stories?
Oh, at TechTarget or searchsecurity.com.
Searchsecurity.com.
Yes.
TechTarget Security.
Oh, is it
TechTarget? Yes,
TechTarget?
that's right.
TechTarget.com
Oh, okay.
/search security.
I think if you Google it too, it comes up, right?
But it's TechTarget Security. Type it into
Used to be,
Google, type it into Bing, your favorite search engine.
Used to be search security.
Also, our colleague, Rob Wright, news director over at TechTarget Security, and I, we do a podcast called Risk and Repeat.
Yeah.
That's available on Apple Music and Spotify soon. So there you go. And then we'll be doing RSA stuff right after.
Absolutely. Excellent. Thank you so much. Well, thank you
bet.
so
Thank
much for
you.
joining us. And thank you for joining us for day 2 of our RSA Conference 2024 live coverage. I believe we're back at 11:30 to talk cybersecurity and esports. And of course, Alex and Arielle are joining us again later this afternoon. Please like and subscribe, and thank you again for joining us.